Welcome back to This is Freedom. This is episode 6, part 2 with Kendra Ferris. In the last episode, we ended things with when energy's in motion, we're anxious and agitated. How do we stop that? What do we do? How can we manage? So let's get into it.
Yes.
And
So what stops it?
and so that will be for sometimes it's literally like needing to get up and walk away and remove myself from the situation. I am a
Yes.
bit like I'm a person who does walks. Like I will I
Yeah,
start
yeah.
my day with just getting into a different headspace
Yep.
and getting out of here. I have a pet, and so I remember
Yes, you
reading somewhere
do.
that
What kind of pet do you have? Tell
so
us.
I have a dog. So I have a puppy who she's a little bulldog mix who is full of energy herself. And
Is it the same bulldog that I met years ago?
sadly, we lost that bulldog only last
Oh.
year. So
Oh,
we've
wow.
had a
Okay.
series of dogs in our lives, and
Yeah.
so
Oh.
we have a new puppy that we've invited into the fold.
And y'all, she makes those puppies get on the treadmill, y'all. Like she does go for a
So
walk.
the
The
same
first time I saw
structure.
that, I've never seen a dog on a treadmill, Kendra. And then when I went to your house and they're like going at it, and I'm like, wow, this is how you have a healthy dog. This is how you train your dog.
The same structure that we apply to ourselves in my family is what we expect it of our animals as well. That like making sure that they get their exercise, making sure that they get their like chill time. And but my like for the dog, like literally taking a moment and literally like taking her outside. My dogs have helped me tremendously throughout my journey,
Mm,
but like literally going and just playing with her for a little bit, because
yeah.
the thing I love about dogs is that they're in the moment. Like they are
Yes.
really that like they are right there,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever's happening right now is all
Yeah.
that matters in the world to
Yeah.
that dog. And so that's been so instructive to me, frankly, to be able to be like, oh, cool. So whatever was going on 20 seconds ago with work or with whatever conversation I was having, I can just go pet the puppy
Mm-hmm.
and she'll remind me that that stuff's not important. That
Yes.
that there's something else. There are other things that like.
Yeah. I find for me, it's like my niece, people who need that attention,
Mhm,
and that care
mhm,
puts you into this present moment because you have to
mhm.
be focusing on them. Like when you're with your pets, when you're with your family, when you're getting that
Yeah.
affection that you talked about, that you said
Mhm,
you need every day.
mhm.
That's a huge part of finding the balance
Yeah.
and peace. How do you find meaning and purpose? What is your spirituality?
Yeah,
Ask
this one
about that.
I because asked this question when I saw that this is a piece of what freedom mental health was. I think it was my first question to be like, "Hey, Michelle, I don't know if I'm a great person for this podcast because
Right.
I'm not super sure about spirituality." And you pushed me. You're just like, "Okay, answer the question, Kendra. Think about it."
That's what I do.
And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that because okay, so here's where that question took me. So first off, defensive. I was just like, no, not me. That's not part of my identity. And then you're
Mm.
like, no, stop, go back, think about it. Okay, cool. And then I started from a negative definition, right? I started from, oh, I'm not
Mm.
this. I am not a practicing that. I don't do this. I don't. And I was just, okay, that's
Yeah.
not helpful either.
Yeah.
Like maybe process
Right.
of elimination helped me to get there, but then I was like, why did I jump to that place? Like, why did I get defensive? Why did I go to the
Yeah.
negative side of things? And then I was like, okay, if we get rid of all of the like connotations or all of what I think spirituality might be, and just go back to your question about connection and meaning
Mm.
and purpose. And I was like,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. Because to me, spirituality is about connection.
So wait, going back to why did you start to eliminate or get defensive? Like what was it about spirituality that gave you
So
that kind of reaction?
I think it's because like I was raised as like a go to Sunday school practicing Christian person.
Mm.
And then that's something that I've not maintained in my adult life. So I think for me it was a little bit of me thinking about why that's not something that I have maintained, to think
Mm-hmm.
about like why my family stopped going to church and
Yeah.
stopped.
And why is that, if you don't mind me asking? Because
It
that's
was
a
largely to do
yeah.
with the community, like it largely to do with
Mm.
the way that the church that we had gone to changed over the
Um,
years. And like there was like a new priest that came in, and the community that we felt we had there just wasn't
yeah.
the same and didn't have the same like structures and organization. Cause I love the practice of going to a service and having that
Mm.
routine and having those familiar songs
Yeah.
and familiar words. Because, like I said at the beginning, words and
Yes.
music mean a lot to me. So there's a lot of comfort that I find
Mm-hmm.
in that. But it
Mm-hmm.
was when like there were some things going on in the community part of the church that just weren't working for us anymore.
Mm.
And which is what got me to this place where I'm like, oh, like
Yeah.
that's what spirituality is more about. Yes, there's the like routines of it and there's
Yeah.
like the rituals.
Yeah. That's the religion.
That's the religion. But the part about connection and the part about feeling like I'm part of something,
Mm-hmm.
that's the important part. And when
Yeah.
that went sideways, like it felt like it was like a betrayal and a loss. And it's
Right.
something that I haven't like I
Mm-hmm.
haven't gone back to and I
Yeah.
have not fully explored, but I find it in other places. Like I find it walking
Mm-hmm.
my dog in my community and good morning, good evening, like seeing the same people every
Yes.
day at the same time
Mm-hmm.
and just sharing those little like intersecting moments where we're like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we're in this together and hey, we're having this experience together.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things that feed me and those are some of the things that help me to feel like I'm part of something and that like I'm
Mm-hmm.
seen and that like where I am
Mm-hmm.
has those connections to different things.
Yeah. So really your connection to community and people.
Yeah.
You talked about music and words being really important.
Mhm.
How does that show up in your life now? Like before, obviously going to church, there's always music and the words and stuff. How do you experience that now? Music and words and connection.
Mm. And so music is on in the house, it's on in the car, it's on in something, and it's something
Mm-hmm.
that like I'm not going to try to say that I'm a singer because I am on a call with someone who is like a wildly talented
But I
singing,
haven't heard you sing, so you can't say that yet.
and we're not going to go there today. That's for another episode. That is for a different episode altogether. But the act of singing, like me being in the car
Mm-hmm.
and like when I lived alone and had my own apartment, like constantly, it would like that is something that is just profoundly therapeutic to just like for me,
Yes.
it's show tunes usually. Like for me, it's going to some of my Broadway soundtracks and like
Yeah.
putting on some Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat
Oh
and just letting
yeah.
her go. And
Broadway.
yes. And so that's a bit of, and it's been a solo thing
Mm-hmm.
for me. And that's something that I know that you have been singing with people. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I would I imagine that would be such a beautiful thing to be part of.
Oh, it is. Oh, I was singing with the London Gospel Collective for a year, and it brought me through some of the toughest times of my life. And like you said, singing it's expression, it's connection for me. It's such a big part of myself. I don't know how to separate my love for singing and music from who I am. When I think about, okay, I want to pray and I want to thank God for today and I want to just be grateful and put positive intention out, for me, it comes in song. The full expression of me and my connection with the divine is to sing.
And I think about like back to what we were saying about mental health being when you're in that moment and you're not thinking and worrying.
Yeah.
And that's like music takes me there because
Yes.
you're in it and
Hmm.
you're controlling your breath. You're like and you're tuned into something because we know those words like
Yes.
off by heart. It is a different part of our brain that is
Yeah.
pulling that music and that is bringing those words out.
Yeah.
And it's complete gear shift and a complete shift into a totally different state of mind.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, like how you found like your spirituality now and how it's evolved. Because for a lot of us, it's evolved from this structure of the church and something because church are a group of people and structure and systems that sometimes go awry and change and we
Mhm.
leave and we evolve. But it's so good to know that you have that connection and music and yeah that you're finding that and that you realize that's what your spirituality is after you were like defensive about it and stuff and you figured out what that
And
looked like for you.
it's made me pause and think as I'm moving into like new chapters in my life, like how can I remediate this part of myself and how can I find this in different ways? And like
Mm,
how can I marry some of these things that I love and some of these things that feed me and how can I
yeah.
like seek out spaces that are gonna bring those things together in a beautiful way.
I love that. And
Mhm.
you'll figure it out. I love that. So Kendra, what does freedom look like to you and what makes you feel free?
What makes me feel free is so I am my happiest, freest, best self when I'm near the water. And like when I'm
Oh, yeah.
in water, like whether it's the sea, whether it's a lake, whether it's a pool,
Yes.
right? Like that is it. And when I
Yes.
think about why that is, it's that letting go again, right? Because I can just lay back and let the water hold me and just let the water support me. And I think feeling that, if I could find that in my everyday life when I'm not floating around in a giant body of water, to me, that's what freedom is, just is knowing that the things around me will support me and being able to just let myself go and let myself be.
Wow, that really made me think about this book I read called, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Why We Swim.
No.
Yeah, the book lady. I need to tell the book
Woo.
lady
Yes,
about that book
please.
because it's a lot about how different open water swimmers turn to swimming and water to get through hard times in their lives.
Mm,
And to me, like when you said water, immediately my mind was just like, oh, taking me to the ocean and taking me to that sense of, I find the same type of feeling of freedom with the water since I was a kid learning to swim. There's a lot of feelings of freedom attached to that childhood.
mhm.
And yeah, sometimes you just need to get out there by the water. It's such a powerful force.
It is. But if you think about it, like this is, I love that like our whole conversation is coming full circle because we didn't like, yes,
Yeah.
if you think about like babies start out in water and there's some natural instinct, but
Yeah.
learning to swim is not a simple thing. Like those are skills that we had to learn to be comfortable with ourselves. We had to learn what our bodies felt like when we went in water. And it's like the parallel between that and mental health is so real, right? Like
Yeah.
we have to learn about ourselves and the skills we need to be okay.
That's a great analogy. Learning how to swim, it's like learning how to have good mental health. There's this one story I want to share because when I was a kid, I learned how to swim in our townhouse complex. There was a
Mm.
pool in the middle. The neighbor taught me how to swim and my dad as well. So what he would do is I would be on his back and he'd tell me to hold my breath and we would go underwater and he would say, okay, now pinch me when you're ready to come up, like when I ran out of breath. And so I
Oh,
would pinch him and then he would come up to the surface. But it was like learning this relationship with water and how, yeah, you have to hold your breath to survive and you have to know when to come out as well. And it was just like learning how to swim, learning how to navigate. It makes me think about, yeah, that parallels with our mental health, learning how to swim and knowing when we need to come up for air so that we can go back into the deep ends of the ocean, whether it's like our life, our relationships, challenges. We have that skill and we can survive the deep waters and we take all our skills with us and all our training
yes.
and it's just like this constant relationship with water and
Yeah.
skills, like our mental
Yeah.
health.
Oh, and I love the story about you and your dad. That brings such like a powerful image.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a memory. I don't know if I had the same experience, but I can imagine that feeling of like going under,
Yeah.
being a little scared, having your
Yes.
dad's body supporting you,
Yes.
and knowing that he was gonna
Yeah.
get you out when you
Yeah.
needed that help. That's such
Yeah.
a beautiful, like a beautiful feeling
Yeah.
and a beautiful way to get out of that fear place and to learn something
Yeah.
new.
And trusting, right? Trusting that
Yes.
person that's supposed to be, yeah, there as your parent. When I have to think of God that way, of creator that way, of being there for us and giving us the lifeline, making sure that we can breathe.
Mhm.
Oh,
But
I
that we
love
need
her.
to, but that we also communicate that, right? Like that we also
Yes.
say, hey, like enough, like I'm tapping
Yeah.
out, or
Yes. I've
like I
had
need to
enough.
stop for a moment.
Yeah, knowing your limit. And it's
Mm.
trusting yourself and knowing yourself too,
Mhm.
right? To speak
Yep.
up and do that. So we've talked about a lot today and we've talked about burnout and work stress and just how you can create your own formula for learning yourself and what you need to do and the tools to use sleep and eating right and just knowing about yourself and being aware and writing it down and figuring out what works for you and even having like accountability partner to bug you about it
Mhm.
and just learning how to get through life and hopefully we don't get to a situation where we're completely our back is out so to speak for our mental health but it happens and then when that happens we listen to ourselves we listen to our bodies and we take care of ourselves right but
Yep.
I think that having a greater awareness every day of yourself and your body is your messaging system. We
Mm.
have to listen to it and that helps us, right? Thank you for being here and sharing all of this with the audience. There's so many things that we can learn, I think, from this episode, and some resources that I'll share in the description. So, Kendra, what message would you want to give people who are struggling with anxiety and depression in terms of how to find freedom from these mental health challenges?
I think the big thing is that the little things matter a lot, and that there are things
Yeah.
that you can do every day, that even if it's one thing, even
Yeah.
if it's just I am going to go to bed at 9:30 instead of 10:30, even if it's just I'm going to
Yeah.
go for a 10-minute walk, and I'm going to strive to do that every single day. The consistency, and I know that's a challenge. Consistency is something that I've struggled with my whole life,
Yes.
but building that in and having someone to help me be accountable for that and having that consistency has been the most transformational thing for me,
Yeah.
because then it's building predictability in,
Mhm.
and it's controlling the things that I can control, right? So that when other things come my way, that I have a bit more
Yeah.
stability
You have
and a
that
bit more.
constant.
Yes, the grounding, so that when other things come, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that's like a little detour. That's a
Hmm.
little knock. It's not
Yeah.
completely setting me off. So
Hmm.
thinking about the little things you can do every day. And I hope that
Mm.
doesn't sound glib to people, because I can tell you
Yeah.
that it has utterly transformed like every aspect of my life to
Mm.
start building those habits and doing those things 9 days out of 10 at least to keep myself good.
Yeah. So what would be like one thing that you do consistently that you would like to share? That one thing that you think maybe your favorite thing that you do
Mm.
consistently every day?
My favorite, like
Yes.
walking, because I
Yes.
can do it anywhere. Because there
Mm-hmm.
there are other things, like when I'm on vacation, I can still go for a walk. Like I
Yeah.
can still go for a 10-minute walk around the city, around the resort,
Yes.
around the hotel. And what I do, I bookend my day
Hmm.
with a walk. So I start my day with a walk and I end my day with a walk, because
Yeah.
whatever happens in the middle is what happens in the middle. But
Yeah.
I have that start and finish to the day that are things that are consistent and things
Hmm.
that I know are going to happen, that make me feel like, okay, like the middle might have been a little bit messy, but
Yeah.
but this feels regular, and
The
this feels like
bookends.
something I can handle with those bookends every day.
Wow. I like that. The book ends for the book nerd. For the like.
I feel like all of my analogies I'm talking about tell you everything you need to know about me: boats, water, and books and dogs. Like that's.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's great, Kendra. Kendra,
And
thank you so much.
I was going to thank you, because the questions that you've been asking me, and even just like the structure that you've put around this podcast, is challenging in all of the best ways.
Mm,
And it's shifting the conversation away from here's what doctors can do for you, like here's what other people can do to help, and encouraging us to look within ourselves. And
yeah.
that's such a beautiful thing. And it's something that like there's so much depth in each of us,
Yes.
that you reminding us that's where we can look for support and look as the starting point for
Yeah.
building, is it's really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I think that's what I aim to do because we can't rely on outside things or people sometimes. We do have to rely on what's within. And yes, we have to have resources and all of the things are good, right? A holistic approach
Mm,
is great, whether you have to take medication, having social support, having your routine and your formula and boundaries and like you said, the simple things that you can do every day and having those bookends, like that consistency in your life. But at the end of the day, it's knowing who we are and being aware of how we're feeling and what we need and what we don't need
mhm,
that helps us to stay grounded and aligning with those values that we have. Like earlier, you talked about being in a workplace that wasn't aligned with your values. And one thing I learned from my research is that when people are misaligned with their values or they don't know what their values are, and you drift away from that, it causes a distress. Something
mhm,
happens when we're not aligned with our belief system or our values and principles. And we have to take time to think about what are those
mhm.
values and principles and what things are taking me away from that.
And it's something that we
Yeah,
often only realize when we're very far from it. Like we'll notice it's not
yeah,
something you'd be like, oh, this is not aligned with my values. That is not a thought that has
yeah,
ever. It's more often, ooh, like I get a weird feeling, or like I've been
Yeah.
feeling icky, or like something is not feeling right, or like
Mm-hmm.
my body is feeling tense. Like you notice like physical manifestations of this stuff, and you
Mm-hmm.
notice it showing up,
Yeah.
right? And then,
Yep.
but then you got to go back and look and figure out, just be like, why is that happening? What, like, where is this feeling coming from? And a lot of times it's,
Mm-hmm.
I'm being asked to do something, or I'm in a situation
Mm-hmm.
that
That
doesn't
doesn't
feel right.
jive. Yeah. Yeah. It's all, I think we've been created in this way purposely to, it all fits together. Our awareness of our bodies, what our bodies are telling us, and our feelings and our intuition, it's all there for a reason.
Mhm.
And oftentimes when we have anxiety, depression, or deal with extreme mood swings, as I have, those situations cover up that sensitivity, or like they make it harder to see your values and
Mhm.
beliefs, or you don't even care about them at all.
Yep.
And for instance, if you're like manic and you decide to go spend a whole bunch of money, or like you have lots of energy and you decide to leave or do something that doesn't align with your values, in that moment you're not even thinking about that.
Nope. Nope. That's,
And yeah.
so how do you get back to
So
that in that situation? Is it you ride it out
yeah,
and,
I think
or
our connections to people, when you're connected to people who know you, that can be like your partner, for instance, that can be a way to bring you back, because they know when
Mhm.
you're starting to go off the path,
Yep.
and you probably won't listen to them. You're probably like run away or whatever, but it's our family and our connections that help to bring us back as well. And then obviously in extreme situations, just having medication to take away that edge and that extreme whatever's
Mhm.
happening chemically in your body, to then have that stability first to be able to come back to
Yep.
your baseline. And yeah, I think there's lots of different things, but it's figuring out and having that routine and all those things you talked about, like sleep and your formula, because when you have those things consistently, you're less likely to veer off
Mhm.
from your center and what
And it
your value.
and it comes to control too, because like I said, my formula has changed over time because I've needed
Mhm.
different things in different like moments in my life, and for their,
Yeah.
like some of the different elements of the formula have
Yeah.
changed. So I think it's also being
Hmm.
gracious enough with ourselves to know that I know that there might be seasons in my life when I might need
Yeah.
medication again,
Yeah.
because they're like chemically, or in my situation there might
Yeah.
be other things that are setting me off. So
Hmm.
it's being flexible at the same time, and knowing
Yes.
that this is going to change, and that I need to keep checking in on myself,
Yes.
and that I need to keep adjusting it, and need to keep
Hmm.
recalibrating,
Yeah.
because changes never, like changes all around us all the time. And
Yeah.
to think that the same things are going to keep working for us throughout life is probably a bit unreasonable.
Yeah.
There might be similarities,
Exactly. Yeah.
but we're going to need
Yep.
to keep growing, and this is a lifelong journey that we're on. And that is, so
Yeah.
when you talk about freedom, I'm like, freedom with mental health, because I don't know
Yes.
that like saying goodbye to mental health is going to be something, or saying goodbye to
Yeah.
mental illness or diagnosis is something that's going
Right.
to be realistic. Okay, but within that, like, how do we build our own freedom within it?
Yeah, I agree. You learn to live with, and I love that what you said, freedom with mental health
Mm,
challenges. I really like that. I like that play on the words. But yeah, it comes back to that awareness. And when we are dealing with some mental illnesses, the awareness gets lost, right? Whether it's maybe psychosis or mania or whatever it is. And yeah, we do need a holistic approach. We need medication. We need experts to help us to come back to that awareness, because that awareness, I feel like, is that core center that kind of helps everything else. So once you can deal with some of those extreme symptoms and the crises,
mm,
and even prevent from getting there, then I think you can have freedom with
yes,
mental health.
yes.
Yeah. So thank you for saying that. That's really great. I think great insight. So that concludes our podcast today, Kendra. That was amazing.
Thank you for listening to episode 6. I hope this conversation was helpful to you. If you'd like to hear more, please follow This Is Freedom on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Podbean. Also share it with a friend. You can support this podcast as a sponsor, help with production, or be a guest. Contact information to reach out is in the show notes and on our website, freedommentalhealth.ca. There you can donate to this important project. Any help you give is so greatly appreciated. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Michelle Solomon. Take good care and see you next time.